Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I got a special guest, Andy Audate. He is specialized in running his own agency, but he helps coaches and other agencies, helping them launch and scale and grow. He has some expertise in webinars, doing all sorts of stuff. We're going to talk about his origin story, a little bit of how he's got into this. It's going to be really fun to listen in his whole getting into this world of everything. And then we're going to talk toward at the end, like some more tactics, some principles. So stay tuned toward the end, because I think that's going to be really helpful for you as you're really kind of building your online business, to get Andy's expertise in that world. Andy, thank you for being in here today on the podcast. Before I jump in here, I want to just let everybody know there's a free gift down below in the show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But in this show notes here, there's a free workshop. Everybody that wants to grow online, wants to build a media team and scale. Me and Andy have built our teams and helped so many different of our clients. And so this workshop is packed full of some really cool stuff. Make sure to check that out. Andy, as we're diving into it, I want to ask you a question about high performance. Like, what does that look like? What does that mean to you? What is that really the characteristics that you've seen that applied to your life and the clients you've been able to serve?
My friend, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your episode and having me be a guest and serve your audience. To answer your question on high performance, what I look at for high performance, it's going to be when the regular performance is going to be 1 + 1 = 2. When someone takes an action and they take another action, it equals 2. High performance is when 1 + 1, the actions that they take equal 4, such that the levers that they pull, the actions that they take, actually produce and outweigh the average person. I wrote a book about 7 years ago called No More Average. And the premise of this book was really discussing on how you can leverage other people's efforts, other people's mindset, other people's experiences, other people's brand, and create bigger results in the same amount of time, in the same amount of energy that someone else who's starting out may be able to, the actions that they take versus the action that you take, yours is much more superior. That's what I look at for a high performance.
Love it, man. Now give the clients a little more of a high level overview of like what you do and how you serve people. And then I'll go into your origin story in a minute, but I want to give you a ability to kind of plug a little more clearly what you do and what people know about you.
So we primarily have two brands. One is Progretta. Progretta is a white label version of Go High Level, and we're in the top 130 agencies. And because of that, out of their 90,000 agencies, and because of that, we've primarily focused on coaches, and we help them greet, sell, qualify, present more, and close more deals. So we help them with their funnels. We help them with their marketing campaigns to generate more sales opportunities. Now that business grew substantially. We're about across our 1,000 client number or metric in the Go High Level space. And because of that, we have grown in the Go High Level space, asking like, hey, how are we growing our Go High Level business? And ironically, then we started coaching Go High Level agencies. So we primarily focus on coaches and help them. And then our business grew. And then other agencies said, hey, how are you helping your clients? Can you help us? So we started coaching Go High Level agencies, and we serve just under 1,200 Go High Level agency owners on how to operate and scale their business.
It's so cool, man. It's sometimes when you build a business, you end up opening another can of worms and other can of opportunities that you ended up being able to serve more and more people. That's cool that you figured that one out. Talk to us about your
They're
origin
very
story, though,
symbiotic.
man. Like, I want to hear like your upbringing of like what, like being an entrepreneur, you're wired differently. I just realized like
Yeah.
everybody's different. How did you become this, success? And what was this like? Was your parents this way? Was it you hustling, selling candy bars and mowing lawns? Like, what was the upbringing like that got you into this world of success?
Similar stories, right? Like, you mentioned selling candy bars, mowing lawns. I think many of us entrepreneurs have a similar starting point, and then we play the 1 degree of change. I heard about this idea that, like, let's say you start off in Washington State and your goal is to get on a plane and head towards Miami, Florida, and you set your direction. But if you just off by 1 degree, you end up in Boston, right? Like that one clear, distinct change. And I think that us as entrepreneurs, we start in many similar journeys, but we just take a bunch of 1 degree changes, and that's how we end up as different entrepreneurs in different niches and different industries. Mine started 100% with the mowing grass. So we did the mowing grass, but it originally was because my dad said to me, I'm going to get you the Nike Air Forces. Unfortunately, he went to New York, which I'm from Rhode Island, the smallest state in the country. And my dad said to me, "Hey, I'm gonna get you some whatever you want. Tell me whatever you want, I'll get it for you." So I said, "The Nike Air Forces, Dad. I'm gonna be the flyest sixth grader. I'm gonna be so cool once I get the Nike Air Forces, the mid top with the Velcro. Can you get me those?" And he mentioned to me like, "Yeah, I'll get it for you, no problem." He went to New York the next day. New York, what that meant to us was he's gonna go shopping. That's what New York is. Hey, I'm gonna go shopping because the clothes are cheaper there. And when he went to New York, he came back and he didn't have the clothes. And I said, "Why don't you have the clothes?" And he mentioned because it was finances. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I got to go and get it on my own. And I went out door knocking and I started mowing lawns and shoveling snow. So when it was wintertime, I shoveled. When it was spring or summer, I started shoveling. Or when it was spring, I would rake the leaves. So all the seasons, I was out working, and I recruited some of my friends in school, brought them out to help me in that arena. And then I did a lemonade stand where I grabbed the lemonade from my mom's fridge and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna just take some cups, go outside," and I started flipping lemonade, 100% profit because it was my mom's lemonade that she bought for the house. And from there, when I was 17 or so, I went and I wanted to work a commission based job. I went to T-Mobile to ask them to apply for a job. At 17 years old, a corporation like T-Mobile decided not to hire me. So I went down the street and there was another company called Metro PCS, which is another cell phone carrier, but it was prepaid. And so it caters to a different audience. And the Metro PCS, they gave me an opportunity to work, and I started uh, working at Metro PCS. And one day, there was a black man who walked by me, and this black man had his earrings. He had he cut off his entire hair, so he was bald. So he just this fly guy with a chain and earrings and so on and so forth. And I remember him walking behind me, and I'm thinking that we're getting robbed because he walks into the store and he goes all the way into the back. I don't know who he is. He goes all the way into the back, and I'm like, oh shit, are we getting robbed? And I don't want to. I just let him go because that's where the inventory is at. I just let him go. Shortly, I overheard him talking, and I found out that he was a business owner. He was a franchise dealer of these Metro PCSs in the location. He had 10 in the area, and that proximity of me being next to the owner, I worked for him for the first 6 months. Barely had a relationship with him, but what he would do is after I started to acquaint myself with him, he started to coach me, started to guide me, and by having that proximity of somebody who had dozens of employees and so on and so forth, it gave me context of what was possible because I'm a black man. I'm from an impoverished area, and I see another black man winning and building a multi-million-dollar business. That gave me context and that gave me permission. A year later, I ended up opening up my own location, and I partnered with them, and I partnered with T-Mobile. T-Mobile had acquired Metro PCS, and they were investing into stores and franchise owners. I opened up a franchise. I'm the youngest T-Mobile franchise owner, and once I started that first franchise, I ended up opening up 4 locations. I made my first $1 million at 21, and then I retired. And then I moved to the West Coast, and I lived in LA. And in this journey of living in LA, I learned about digital marketing and the value that it does for small business owners. And that started my digital marketing journey, which is why I'm still on the journey now.
Dude, and then how many years has it been so far that you've been doing digital agency work?
10.
10 years. Yeah, man. Dude, that's a wild story. I appreciate you talking about this. I realize that to grow into anything, you have to have a mentor. Like, there's so many times people wanna wing it or they think that, YouTube University is the way to go, which is helpful on some aspect, but it's so important to get, a client like people in your world that are mentors and coaches. Like, have you invested a bunch with people like that over the years with mentors and guides?
When I moved to Los Angeles, the first thing that I did was I prayed. And I got on my knees one day and I'm just like asking God, like, what's the move next? What's the next move? And I went through a journey, man, where I had to learn about being a financial steward, where how to manage money because I made a lot of money and I thought that the success that I had at a young age was what it's like to be an entrepreneur. That this is the journey, man. All you got to do is open up a business, take that little risk and open up a business. And then after that, it's just up from here. Not
Right.
realizing that I had the backing of T-Mobile's brand and T-Mobile's marketing to drive new customers. All I had to do was convert the customers that walked into my store
Yeah.
rather than build awareness myself, right? I wasn't responsible for building awareness myself. T-Mobile took care of that. I was part of a marketing system as a franchise owner. I'm the end of a marketing system as a franchise owner, which what I realize is many employees don't understand that when they work in a company and they're like, hey, I do the taxes for this accountant, and I've been doing taxes for this accountant. I'm a CPA and I do taxes for this accountant. I've been doing that for the last 15 years. I should go start my own firm. Not realizing as an employee, you're the end of a marketing system. They
That's
do
right.
all the marketing, they bring all the customers, then you fulfill, and you're like, oh, I can compete. Not realizing, there's a whole process. So I started my journey in Los Angeles, where I'm now retired, quote unquote, but I'm 21, so I can't retire for long, and it's only $1 million. Like you and I know both, man. That's gonna go like that, right? Over time. And not being a good steward, I traveled and I bought cars, and I had a new car every quarter. Every quarter I had a different car. And not being a good steward led me to at one point get on my knees and say, okay, God, I need you. Show me the route.
Mm.
And there was a vision that I had laying on my bed was I'm gonna be a speaker. I'm gonna speak on stages. And when I said, okay, I'm gonna be a speaker, the only thing I could think of from speaking was two things. You're either a pastor on stage or on the pulpit, or you're a motivational speaker. So I went to my pastor in Koreatown, Los Angeles. So Pastor Julian, shout out to you, my friend. And I'm like, hey, brother, I want to speak on stage like you do. Can you show me how? And he says, I can't show you, but I'll give you an opportunity. And I went, he gave me the opportunity to speak on his pulpit. This is one of the biggest churches in Los Angeles. And when I came to him, he said, I never give people the opportunity, but for some reason, my friend, I feel like you're called. And my one of my small group leaders at that church said, I want to prophesy over you. I see that you're a orator. Never knew what that word meant, but it meant to speak. It meant to communicate. So I started that journey speaking at church, and then I went home and I saw an opportunity on Facebook where, because I've been doing all this searching online about how to speak and how to communicate, I see a Facebook ad that essentially retargeted me, which was by the Les Brown Institute. So the number one
Yeah.
motivational speaker, Les Brown, he had a program, and that program cost, I think at the time, $5,000 or $6,000. And I invested into that program, and I went to Miami at the headquarters. Les Brown is one of those speakers that travels all around the world, gets paid $70,000, $80,000 to speak on stage. At this headquarters in Miami, when I invested into their program, I went to the location just to see the operations, right? Realizing that he does not go there. He lives in Ohio at the time, and he doesn't go to Miami. If anything, he goes there once or twice a year, specifically for only for the events that he's hired to go speak at his institute, because his company actually hires him to go speak. That's how it works, right? And I flew in, not kidding with you, my friend. I flew in to go check out the operations. I go meet the operation. I go see the managers. I see the sales team, and I'm like, "This is cool, thank you." And I'm ready to go back to the airport after seeing the operations. And as I'm walking out, Les Brown, the motivational speaker, is walking in. As he's walking in, he says to his team, he says, I just got hired to speak from another company down the street, and since I'm in town, I just came in and stopped by. I do this once a year, maybe. I just wanted to come check you guys out. And it just so happened I caught him walking by. He stops me, looks me dead in the face before I can even say anything. He looks at me, he says, young man, you look like me when I was younger. Oh my goodness, he touched my face. You look like me when I was younger. And I said, dude, you sound like YouTube. Like, I have never seen you in person, but you sound like YouTube. And I stayed in the room, decided not to go to the airport. I stayed in the room just to be in the presence. I overheard him talking about going on a tour. They were planning a tour that he would sell from the stages and sell his courses. And once I overheard that, I said, you know what? I want to be on that tour. And I went and I essentially told the team, like, hey, put me on that stage. And they said, I cannot put you on the stage. You're just young 20-something-year-old dude. I'm not interested in putting you on the stage. However, after 7 tries, meaning they told me no 7 times. They said, no, not now. Thank you. I appreciate you. I can't put you on the stage. They kept on saying no. I followed up for about 6 weeks or so. So I, of course, left Miami, but I followed up for 6 weeks. I said, put me on that tour. Around the 7th time, they said, look, young man, I'm not going to put you on the tour. This is his one of his managers. I'm not going to put you on the tour. However, I'll make you a salesperson. If you want to sell tickets, come out and I'll sell. If you sell tickets to the event, I can get you in proximity, but you're not going to touch that stage. I'll get you in proximity. I said, done. I said, I'll sell tickets. So my job was now to go around the country selling tickets for Les, and then Les's associates. So people that Les would do stages or events with, Les's team would sell tickets, and I was part of that team, or his core events. So I'm going around the country, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old, selling out tickets for these events, packing out hundreds of people in different cities, Dallas, Houston, New York, Miami, wherever an event was at. I was there for 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks beforehand, packing out rooms where I would go to like car dealerships, real estate or offices, and I would talk to large groups of salespeople, and I would do what I call a peak performance training, where I would do a training on how to greet, how to sell, how to qualify, how to present, and how to close deals, and how to acquire leads from online. So that's where the marketing journey started, where I was teaching this or explaining how this works for salespeople. And then at the end, I would say, by the way, we have an event coming up where we'll go deeper. If you want to come, buy tickets from me, and here's how much. And then people will come up and buy tickets. And that was my job.
So cool, man. What a story. And then you got into doing it for other people too, it sounded like.
Through the relationships, this is a small community. This is a small industry. Field sales representatives is a very niche community, especially with digital marketing, that it's becoming less and less frequent today. But it's still a small industry that people still look for them. And so once they find out you're an FSR, people are gonna start rooting for you because your job is to help them fill up rooms. So I worked with some of the those gurus on TV, like I do real estate and so forth. Like I worked with them. I'm not gonna say any of their names, but I've worked with many of these top guys that are on the internet, on TV, and so on and so forth. And my job was to represent them in the field and pack out their events, because the strategy was they would hire a Facebook ads marketing team, funnel designer, so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. What ends up happening in that industry is let's say you have an event and you have a hotel room for 400 people. Your marketing team only sells 250 individual buying units. That's what they call them, buying units. A group of people who can buy. So like a couple, a wife and a husband, will be considered one buying unit because they can only buy together as a decision. Or an entrepreneur, if they buy a ticket, they're considered one buying unit because they can only buy as a decision, and make a decision. So that is the most potent of buying units, is when you can get them like from Facebook individually to buy tickets. Now, what ends up happening is the marketing agency, out of 400 people, they sell 250 seats, and the event is 6 weeks. We can see the trend is going to be you won't pack out the room, and you already paid for the room. So you might as well get more bodies in the room, because if Andy, for example, can go out to a sales company, and that sales company can bring in 15 people, because I'll go talk to Honda and I'll see 75 people in the audience, essentially all their salespeople doing a training for. Out of that 75, I may get 15 to 20 people to buy tickets. So I do this big jumps of people, but they're not all individual buying units. What they represent is a group of bodies that help influence the buying units that's in the room, because there's more people. So that's all the small strategies that take place in that room, and that was one of my jobs for a long time.
Yeah, that is really unique. Now going into like what you do now, like you've transitioned from not doing that much in person. I mean, you still do speaking engagements, sounds like, but you're doing a lot more specifically online and helping agencies. When did you make that transition from doing those things in person to sell tickets into doing it now?
So in 2000, and I think it was 2017, I kind of teeter tottered. I was promoting other people's names for so long, I to the point that I damn near had no identity. I was
Really?
promoting so many other people's names. I didn't post on social media. I had no interest in recording myself around that time like I do today. I had no interest in being on podcasts, things of that nature. So I wasn't in the limelight of any sort. Then 2017, I was in Dallas, Texas, and I just promoted. It was a real estate event, and I had done 2 city tours like back to back, Dallas and Houston. And I was just like, man, I'm saying other men's names more than I say my own name. And I said it to a friend of mine. I said, I'm going to do my own event. I did my own event in 2017, the last quarter of 2017, and that was the start of me being my own brand. 2018, I did a couple more events under my own brand. So my brand was Progression Conference by Andy Audate, and that was me starting to kind of get into the environment and build my own brand. online. Then 2019, I did a couple more events, and then I said 2020 is my year. I'm gonna do 13 cities back to back, all under my brand. 2017 and 2018 and 2019, I'm doing Andy Audate just in Los Angeles. Okay, so you want to come out to see me? It's only in LA. For me to go touch the folks and make myself known, I'm doing 13 cities. I anticipate between 1,300 to 2,000 tickets to be sold. I'm excited. 2020 is my year. March 2020 was the first event. We packed out that room, and this was in Atlanta. Well, we packed out the ticket sales. And then March 2020, as we're shipping, we call them ahead of time to ship out like the studio equipment, the microphones, all the good stuff. And the hotel tells me, "I'm sorry, sir. We're in a state of Georgia is in a state of emergency because of COVID-19 pandemic." That's how I found out, by the way. And we're not gonna be able to host the event. We're gonna have to reschedule. We're gonna have to postpone it. I said, "No problem. I got 12 more cities. I'm game. I got a whole roster of events. We'll piggyback on the tail end of the year in Atlanta." And one after the other, cancel after cancel after cancel. Now, mind you, I have sponsors who paid to sponsor the event. I have attendees who bought tickets. I have speakers who are ready to present, and some big speakers too. Like we had Zig Ziglar's son, Tom Ziegler. We had Laura Langmeyer speak on that stage. We had Les Brown scheduled, a bunch of speakers, a bunch of friends of mine. And I had to figure out like how I'm gonna pivot. And our pivot was to do it online. I took the same concept and I had to do it online. I just had to figure out how to do it online. I never done a webinar before. I never done a Zoom webinar, but I brought people on Zoom, and that started my journey. And to date, we've done just under 400 webinars. Back to me personally, where I've led and instructed over 400 presentations on Zoom with hundreds of people. So, and in any given week, we'll have an event with 200 people in the audience to 700 people in the audience online on Zoom. And my turning point was, I think, in 2021. So about a year goes by, and we're doing these events. And I had moved from Los Angeles to Las Vegas because the pandemic was making it real tough in LA. And in Las Vegas, I had an event scheduled, and the governor shut it down because they said, yes, you can host an event. And then they said, you know what, never mind. You got to close out the event. So I did an event online, and I remember I generated in sales $75,000 from my own product in sales in that one presentation that I did. And I went back to my wife at the time and I said, "Hey, look, I don't know if I'm ever go back to doing in-person events because I just made 75 grand in our spare bedroom, and I'm coming back here to watch TV with you rather than being in a random hotel room in a random city, having to take a random flight and be away from you. I want to build a family now, and let's see what that journey's like." And that's been the journey over the last 4 years, man.
Yeah. What a transition, man. What a cool story with everything that you're doing, dude. And then like that's not an easy thing from doing marketing and sales to being in person to doing online. Like what was the ads looking like there?
What for me?
Yeah,
For my
when you
campaign,
went
or for you
from
talking
in
about for the other
person to
people's?
online, yeah.
It's actually not that different, man.
Really?
It's actually not that different. When you send a calendar invite, instead of the location being a hotel room or hotel conference room, it's a Zoom room. Email automations, the text message automations. Now, the only thing that really tweaks is like, for example, in the email automations and text message automations, we go 10 minutes past the actual webinar start time versus in an in-person event, we want them to be in there an hour early.
Mm.
So on a webinar, we don't want you to be an hour early because it's at a click of a button for you at home. Rather, a hotel, you got to drive, you gotta pack up and so on and so forth and actually get ready. But the conversions are very similar. The experience is very similar as far as the speakers and run of show. So it's very similar for us to put on an event. But from a cost savings perspective, it makes more sense and we can touch more people. So rather
Hmm.
than me doing an event, for example, in Dallas, Texas with 120 people, 150 people, I can do 300 people around the country in that same type of event if I do it online.
Talk about like the strategy there and the opportunity. I feel like a lot of people are missing doing webinars. I think they're either doing like workshops where it's pre-recorded or pre-recorded webinars. Like, are those still valid, or is it more of the live type of webinars that you're selling? Like, what works best right now?
The reason my position on the reason you do a webinar is because in 2019, in order to sell out different products and services that we were selling. So my first coaching program was a speaker training course where I trained people on how to speak on stages because I had done it so many times that I knew exactly how to manage presence, how to get attention, and how to platform sell, which is selling from the stage. And so I created a course around it, and that was my first course in general or coaching experience. And I remember the way that I started selling it was I would go to YouTube University, like you said, and all the gurus were like, "You got to do application funnel and then schedule a booking and to sell your $3,000 course." And I was like, okay, got it. So I did that and it worked. And I'm telling you, my friend, I'm talking about every 30 minutes I had an appointment after an appointment after an appointment after an appointment. If I show you the calendar in like some of the months in July, in July, June, the summer of 2019, every 30 minutes I would have 18 slots, or every day I would have 18 30-minute slots. I didn't know you can change the parameters on Calendly where you can say turn it off between this time and that time. Didn't know that part, right? So I just allow it to be open, and I would book essentially from the morning to night, right? Every 30 minutes, so for 9 hours straight, back to back, no lunch, nothing. And then I started dating a girl, which is now my wife. And when I started dating her, I remember being on sales calls, and she's behind the computer, and she's in the kitchen or wherever she's at, and I'm doing these sales calls on the kitchen table, kind of figuring out this new move of digital marketing and being a coach. And so I didn't have an office at the time. I didn't have a professional setup like I do today, but back then I was on the kitchen table, and she was like, "Look, every time that I come, like throughout the day, you're on a sales call, you're on a meeting with somebody every day, every single day, you're on the call with somebody." To the point where she would be making a smoothie in the kitchen, and I would have to overcome an objection, and then I would say make my point, and I would mute myself, and then she would do the smoothie on the blender, and I'm listening on my headset, and then I would smack the table, and then that means that okay, I'm going back to talk, and I would unmute myself, and I would talk to the person, then I would mute myself, and she goes back to the blender, and we were doing that, and she was like, "Dude, I don't see us ever having a family. This is not gonna work. Like, I can't get married to you. Like, this is not gonna work." And I had to figure out a new model. And then that's when I was like, okay, I know what to do. I'm gonna get back on the road. I'm gonna still host seminars, and that's why 2020 was such a big deal because I'm gonna do what I do best, where I'm gonna bring a large group of people into one seminar room, and all I got to do is really 13 big presentations a year. So it's
Mhm.
really just like almost one a month that I got to do in person. And for the rest of the time, hey, let's hang out, let's spend more time. And I got salespeople on the call selling tickets now because I've trained other people to sell tickets now. So let's spend some time and hang out. But the pandemic happened, so I just
Yeah.
turned that model on its head and started doing it online. So the value for you, if you're doing webinars, the value for you is instead of doing one-on-one sales calls every 30 minutes, you can take all the people. So let's say in a day you have 18 people scheduled. That's like the max you're really going to do. That's 9 hours of sales calls every 30 minutes. You have 18 people, and let's say that you're talking about 10 working days. That's 180 people. I've booked them. If you know anything about digital marketing, 2016, 17, 18, 19, that was prime time for Facebook ads. So now I have this calendar, there's people on my calendar, you can push all of them to an online event. That's the webinar. So now instead of 180 one-on-one sales calls, I have ironically 180 people on a sales presentation, which is called a webinar. And I present the same thing to all of them. A portion of them buy, a portion of them don't buy, and a portion of them may have some questions. And I stay a little bit later on the webinar to answer those questions. And I get better, if not the same results. And the reason I get better is because of what we call buying unit psychology, where the people who are on the fence, they see other people taking action, and they're like, "Oh, you bought? Oh, you bought? Shit, man, I might as well buy too." And that's one of the reasons why I decided to go in the webinar route. So today, all I have to do is one big presentation a month to grow a seven-figure business.
What about the personal connection? I feel like sometimes webinars are not as personal compared to a one-on-one call. What do you think of that?
When you why does celebrities have why do celebrities have like raving fans and they never met the person? It's the way that you can communicate a story. One of the things I learned on the road when I was traveling for these motivational speakers and gurus and speakers and so forth is facts tell, but stories sell. And the stories, if you notice on this podcast, I got a bunch of stories to the point that it can create a true connection with somebody who can listen to this podcast and say, "Hey, I'm listening to the Nathan Newberry episode, and on this show, this gentleman and I took you from a journey from the cell phone journey, you know, mowing lawns to on this episode to sell, you know, seeing a black guy walk in about to rob a cell phone store. Like all of this is
Right.
story that creates that connection, and you can do that at scale if done correctly with webinars. So how you communicate is going to be the key when you're communicating to large groups of people. If you're just selling facts, if you're like the average funnel converts at 32%, and if you use my funnel, you're gonna convert at 46%. And
Right.
this additional conversion is gonna make you an extra more money. Like, no one cares about that. What they care about is the stories.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember listening to a Russell Brunson thing. It's like if you did a webinar a week, you'd never have to worry about money again. Is his quote.
Yeah.
What do you think about like the cadence of how often you do a webinar?
So the one of the things that I did is I took the process that we did of the in-person seminars and we just did it online. And to do a webinar in our process, we have a seeding cycle. So webinar happens, let's say on the 15th of the month. For the first 14 days of the month, we have a seeding cycle where we are priming the viewer of the webinar to learn about the brand that they're about to see. About their background, about what they're going to buy, what they should know before coming into the webinar. So that takes approximately 14 days. So that's what we'll do at an event. So that takes approximately 14 days. And then post webinar, we do what we call post webinar interviews. The post webinar interviews is the people with the highest intent that did not purchase, giving them an opportunity to buy. So that's a furthermore sales cycle. If you are a solopreneur or if you're sub 10 employees on your staff, then that sales process is probably required by you. So the first 14 days, all you're doing is marketing to get people into your webinar. Then you do the webinar, like let's say the 15th of the month. And then the last 15 days of the month, you're doing one-on-one sales demonstrations or one-on-one conversion calls after the webinar. You're answering those specific questions and converting those people while you're preparing for the next webinar. So I understand that there are many people who have done like you do one webinar a week where you essentially run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google ads for 3 or 4 days. You fill up your webinar, and then after the webinar, your sales interviews are for 3 days. But what I found is by creating it a little bit longer, you can have more potent sales coming from your presentations.
Interesting. What about the pricing of it? I feel like high ticket, you know, if you did a $3,000 one, like you're saying, what if you have a bigger, higher ticket? What's like the most you've seen sold in webinars?
I mean, I've seen six figures in a day. However, for us, when if we're doing a $3,000 sale, our webinars is 2 days long. So we'll do it on Friday and Saturday, and it'll be from 10 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. at night. 10 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. at night. There's breaks in between, so it's more of like a summit or a get together. If I'm selling a program at 3 grand.
So what is it less than that then if you did just a 1 day one?
If I did a 1 day, which a 1 day is typically going to be actually an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I just did one a couple of days ago. That was 3 hours. That was a good group. A couple of days ago, it was sales after sales, so we ended up just doing a 3 hour presentation. And I just kept on going. However,
What was the ticket price for that though?
the ticket price was $47. So we had
Okay.
yeah, it was a low ticket entry into my world. They did not know who I was. They didn't know what Go High Level was. I was selling a Go High Level product. They didn't know what Go High Level was. So completely cold audience into our world was a low ticket price, $47.
I mean, that's an easier ask as well compared to a higher ticket, 3,000 or 8,000 or $10,000, high ticket offer. But I guess it's
100%.
a low ticket offer then that can get into a place where then you can upsell them into the other aspects of things then.
If I'm selling $1,000 or less, a 997 price point, hour and a half is fine. Hour and a half is fine. On 100 people, I can pull 12, 13,000 bucks on 100 people. So we're closing at 13, 14, 15% on a 100-person event, 90 minutes. On a 2-day presentation, I can pull in 30, 35% on a 2-day presentation. And what ends up happening is that the price point, my job is to justify the price point over the course of those 2 days. So if I start off on a Friday morning, I'm educating on who my story is, what my background is. I'm building camaraderie. And the reason I build camaraderie in the event is because I'm creating buyer unit psychology where when they go on break and they're friends, if their friends ends up buying, they're more likely to buy with their friends. So that's why the increase over the conversion is much higher on a 2-day event.
Hmm. Let me ask you this. I was an agency for 9 years, and my niche was just I worked with nonprofits and churches, right? And I'm now in the coaching space because I've been able to help people with sales and marketing. But I'm just interested. There's a lot of agencies out there more than ever
Yeah,
doing
I
all
agree.
sorts of stuff. And the trust with agencies is down quite a bit because of just, either the price and cost of not, having people with results or equity. Like, what's your take on webinars and the importance of this for coaches and online brands? Because I see the opportunity of webinars. I've tried a few times and I probably didn't do it the best, but I know there's opportunities for it. Like for people, like to talk about like every coach should probably do it. Sounds like that you have a big advocate for, but then even choosing an agency to partner with to help them with that, I think is another aspect of trying to look at and sort through the best ones that can sort through and help them with that. What's your take on it?
As an agency owner, what people are buying a couple of things. They're buying you, they're buying your strategy, and they're buying how realistic are they able to win, right? So they're looking at risk aversion and they're saying, if I invest with you, how realistic am I able to win? Which is why that seeding time is so important. Because during that 14-day window, if you're going from somebody who's completely cold, does not know who you are, to spend $1,000 with you, or to spend $500 with you, or to even to spend $100 with you, it's how can I have no clue who you are. Like when you look at Russell Brunson's um biggest day on the Grant Cardone stage in Las Vegas, I was there. And when I was there, I was in the VIP suites, and I remember like getting all of these tools before these marketing materials before Russell even speaks. What he was doing, it was worth that much effort to him to precede the audience before letting people know who he was before he attended the event. Hey, if I'm going to go to your webinar, if someone's going to go to a webinar, they're going to Google you before they even come to your webinar. Let me just, check the speaker. Who is this person?
Mhm.
And the content is going to actually tell them if they're going to buy or not. That's today.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it might have been a little bit different. But today, they're doing a Google search, and at the end, they're typing in the word scam just to see if it's worth it. So they type in your name, and at the end, they put scam, right? Or at the end, they put reviews. And they just want to see what's online. And then they see your social media. The last time that you posted was your cat in 2021, and
Right.
you're gonna go expect and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go and compete against so and so who's very much active." It makes it very tough today. So today, what I found when I look at our sales calls presentations, we get a transcript of the post webinar interviews. What I found is that people already come in knowing who I was. They already follow me on social media. Or I'll see someone who bought, and I'll go to Instagram after a webinar, for example, mindlessly scrolling, and I'll see that person's name like, oh, you were on my Slack notification that you bought whatever we were selling, and you just spent $1,000 with me. But I just realized you've been liking my post over the last 2 weeks. So today, what I found, it's a lot different than what I was taught, which was like NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, like to
Consider
communicate
that.
in a specific way to move an audience. Today I'm seeing that the audience is more so educated ahead of time. So if you're an agency owner or you're a coach and you're like, hey, I want to do the webinar thing and I want to create results, I think what needs to be different today to build trust is what happens before the webinar. Definitely that you have a relationship with your audience. It could be some reels here and there. Like I have reels that talks about me cold plunging, right? Like you're building some type of relationship with me, right? I have some reels talking about going to the gym and so on and so forth. So I have somewhat of a relationship with you. And then you come to the webinar, it's like, okay, I can correlate the two and make a decision to buy. Does that work 100% of the time? No. There will be an audience people, members in your audience who are at a point where they're ready to buy because of what you said. And they have no clue who you are, but you solve a real problem. And that's why they're moving forward. And there'll be people who made a decision because they already saw you ahead of time.
Yeah. Hey man, I appreciate you being on. Like, uh, I'm all about this funnel being built out. However, people get attention, from direct ads to follow to DM, and then webinar is something that I was excited to talk to you a little bit more about because it's something I'm interested in building out myself, and I think that's something
What
that's
do you
going
want
to
to know
be.
about webinars?
What's that?
What do you want to know about webinars?
Well, I think we talked a lot about. What am I not asking about some webinars here?
How to fill it up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, for time's sake, I want to, give you a high overview of like how do you do that? Like how do you generate leads? What's the ad spend? How do you kind of process and build out that whole stack of people showing up?
So yes, I'll tap into the ads a little bit. I mean, it's the same as you're doing anything else. Cost per lead versus or CAC versus lifetime value. So we can skip the ad spend. I want to get really creative and share some real creative strategies.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, One is having other people speak at your event and having them help you fill up your webinar.
Mhm.
That one is huge. I'm currently in a. When did this podcast launch? When do you?
I I'm not sure exactly. My team probably in a few weeks to
All right, a few
a
weeks.
month.
So I'm in a marketing cycle right now. I got 22 speakers coming in of the top go high level agencies. You want to check out the results? You can go to ghlengine.com/summit. I get the support of all 22 speakers to help me fill up the webinar. Years ago, let's talk about years ago. So about 5, 8, 6 years ago, one of the strategies that I would do is I would go to an audience or someone who has influence, and I would mention, hey, come to my event, speak on my stage. All I ask you is to bring 30 people, 40 people, 60 people, 100 people, depending on how big your audience is. Bring people. And if I can get, let's say, 5 people to bring in 50 people, I now have an audience of 250 people. And I didn't spend any money on ads. So I go to each person. I say, hey, I'm going to have this event. I anticipate that there's going to be 200 people speaking at this event. I would love to have you come speak. They say yes. All I ask you is bring some folks, bring 50 to 60 people. When they bring in their 50 people, I do the same thing with 5 other speakers, and then they all bring in their audience, and now I have a full event. And now I start getting influence over this audience and building a relationship with this audience that I didn't have to put money for.
Yeah.
The next thing that we do is inside the technology when we do text messages and emails, we send out emails and text messages letting them know that they have a buddy pass. And a buddy pass, what that means is you've now registered who is 2 people that would find value in X content or X topic. So this webinar is on maximizing AI for coaches, or this webinar is getting sales opportunities from AI, or getting sales from Instagram, whatever that webinar is about. And then who are 2 people that would find this to be valuable? Here, send them this link and have them register, or register them yourself. And by every 2 people or each person, if they brought in 2 people, now not all, a quarter actually does, but just by having the extra 25 people or 25% actually bring in the 2 people, now I go from 100 people in a webinar, for example, to 125 people in a webinar or 150 people in a webinar. And you keep doing that. Last year, we did over 6,500 people just in those 2 strategies alone.
That's smart, man. It's brilliant.
Just no ad spend was necessary. So
Yeah.
yes, we run ads, but just the 6,500 in that specific campaign, just in that group, was all from previous efforts of me saying, come and bring your audience. So I've had people like co-author Rich Dad Poor Dad come and speak, and big names come and speak. And when they come and speak, they bring in an audience, but then our automations, double down. And then when the people who get registered, they too get the buddy pass. So John was the first person. I said, John, come in and speak at my event. John brings in 20 people. John's 20 people gets a text message and email and says, John, you were referred to by John. Now who are two people that would be interested in this topic. You register those two people, or you send them the link, and then it keeps on going and going and going, and that's how we got so many people. So these are some of the strategies, and then there's one more called chat automation, where you text a lead, and you have them register to speak at your event. So all of this is all strategies on how to fill up your event. That's a quick overview.
That's brilliant. Dude, I appreciate you being on the podcast. I can ask you a bunch of different questions all the time because it's so fun to hear your story and your expertise. How can people follow you and connect with you further?
Check us out at andyaudate.com or social media at ANDYAUDATE.
Perfect. I'll put those links down below. Thanks so much for being on. Guys, thank you for tuning in on the podcast today. Don't forget to go check those things down in the description, that workshop, as well as to connect with Andy. And we will see you on the next episode.